today we reach the culmination of this spiral of our circle that began with the summer solstice.
And in that initiation of the spiral, right, as the summer solstice, we reflected on those experiences in which we find union in the natural world. Right? We remember union in the natural world. And this was then the transition from the focus of our last spiral, which was on the way of selflessness. And this then stepped us into the way of self, right? The Tantric path.
And in the Tantric path, every single experience, every single moment is an opportunity. There's no moment in which we don't have the possibility of encountering and learning directly from this great mystery that is living us. And in the Tantric path, there's described sort of three phases that we go back and forth through. And they really all have to do with answering doubts or questions that arise. In fact, you could say the entire process of spiritual growth is a process of asking questions and then something being revealed to us. So one question is, who am I really? Am I limited to just being just one person that's, going to certainly come to an end? Or is there something greater that I exist as? So that's one place to practice from, is not really knowing who I am and being very curious to know who I truly am. And through that, then we discover presence, or I am, simple being, however we want to name it. We discover that that's our essential nature. And then that leads to more questions. So what really is my nature? Like, I want to know myself more fully. And then we begin to contemplate more how this presence is in everyone else and in all things, and how do I relate to this mystery that is in all things? So there's a lot to discover. And so the first phase could be called Anavupaya, the way of feeling separate at the beginning. The second, Shaktupaya, the way of the Shakti, of learning about all the infinite ways that this energy is manifest, the energy that we are, the energy that is everything. And then sometimes that inquiry, that discovery leads to just indescribable openings in which we're no longer, there's no longer any separation. So we can't really say very much about this because words are going to fail, because when there's no separation, then anything that we say is going to leave something out. So that's Shambhavupaya, when true nature just like blows us out, and when we come back from those kinds of openings, then there's greater certainty, greater clarity. And yet the discovery continues. It's not like that's the end of anything. Discovery goes on endlessly.
And from this orientation, then we began to explore the community as the guru, as the teacher, that the teacher is speaking all the time through everyone, everything, that there is no boundary through which the great mystery expresses wisdom. And to really look at how do we listen. And we used one of Hafiz's poems to really point to this, And this happened to be on Guru Purnima. Okay. And the Hafiz poem was, how do I listen to others? How do I listen to others? As if everyone were my master, speaking to me her cherished last words. So really refining the ears to hear, right? To recognize that in community, everything that's being expressed is this.
And as we continue to delve into this inquiry, this wanting to discover more and more and developing the ears to hear, well, we realize that we have to be always ready, because as Pierre de Caussade said, when the wind is shifting, one can be sure of its direction only moment to moment. It's not like we get to there's not some final answer, because every moment is a new opportunity to continue to learn.
And then recognizing that not just the natural world, and not just community, and not just every word, but the whole universe is actually arising here, right? In me. It doesn't arise anywhere else. And so we began to work with I am. And I am, of course, is pointed to in all the wisdom mystical traditions. And one of my favorite pointers regarding I am is that I am is the last portal of the individual before the undifferentiated divinity, right, consciousness. And it's also the first portal from undifferentiated divinity consciousness into form, right? So it is this exquisite threshold that we can learn to dwell in the I am, just in that simple, ridiculously basic sense of presence. I am.
And that led us, and we say let us because hopefully everybody realizes that this spiral of circle of one has not, the answers have only risen when the questions have been posed. It's not like we knew, okay, this is the way circle is going to unfold. It was like the wind kept on blowing in different directions, and we did our best to, pay attention. And then, the next sort of question that needed to be asked was presented. So we brought our attention to the fact that there is a constant process of what's called the 5 acts of Shiva, or the 5 acts of the mystery, which is that something comes into being, something is, whatever it is, it comes into being, it's sustained and in presence for a while, and then whatever begins will have an ending. And sometimes this is completely mysterious and we have no sense of what's going on. Everything seems to be veiled. We're in confusion. And then if we're willing to stick with it, then something will be revealed. So there's a process of veiling and unveiling. Revelation actually means unveiling. And that this is going on all the time. And if we can stay with it, then we're constantly learning new things. And this is from the Gospel of Luke. No person, when they have lighted a lamp, covers it with a vessel or puts it under a bed, but puts it on a stand that they who enter may see the light. For nothing is hid that shall not be made manifest, and nothing is secret that shall not be known and come to light. So in all the traditions, this is described, that there is much that is still mysterious and veiled, and yet gradually everything is revealed. And we also shifted our attention to notice that our own voice is our own voice is a voice of this infinite mystery, and to really attune to the quality of our own voice when we're speaking and communicating, and what, not just the words, but the way things are said, the tone with which they're said, the pace with which they're said. We then brought our attention back again to that the infinite energy, every sound is her voice. Every single sound is her voice. The sound of the breeze in the trees is her voice. The sounds of the birds, the sound, everything is her symphony. And that our own voice again, to hear in our own voice that infinite mystery expressing itself.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word brings manifestation. So being able to actually tune, right, and hear what's being spoken as an expression of that. And then going from the voice to silence, because the voice only arises out of silence, right, and returns to silence. And silence is considered the highest prayer, right, of really tuning to the silence and recognizing the infinite wisdom that arises in the silence. So that has kind of been our dance from solstice to solstice. Okay. And of course, any one of these emanations, you could spend many lifetimes diving into, refining, exploring, questioning. Okay. But that's a little bit of the landscape that we've traversed together between these solstices. And so what we want to orient our time together today towards is really this refinement of the asking of the question. Okay, the asking of the question. And we are here at the threshold of the holy days, right? And the holy days show up in so many of the traditions this time of year. And they're all in celebration of light, right? Celebration of light, the light of consciousness, the illumination of consciousness, right? And all the ways that it shows up, all the ways that it's expressed. So we're going to be really looking at, how do we refine our questions? How do we listen to the heart song in order to refine the questions that we bring to the altar of the holy days?
So just to kind of lay out how this has always been the case. So Jesus very clearly says, ask and it will be given. But if you don't ask, then it won't be given. In other words, that's the implication. The Kena Upanishad, Kena means who and what. The entire Upanishads are a series of questions and answers. And so it is with all the wisdom traditions. There is an asking, a need that is presented, and that leads to the discovery. That's something is veiled, and that's the revelation happens by inquiring about what's veiled.
So this 6 months has been just an incredible dive into not knowing, and just this radical trust of not knowing, and how much is then revealed in that. The receptivity, the guidance, it's been really extraordinary. And then the wish in this circle of process is certainly absolutely at the heart of that experience manifest. And then the wish, like what I bring to the altar of the holy days, is a poem that was coming to heart this morning as one of Rumi's poems. One of the first lines is, "Be like melting snow." It's just that ongoing, like just softening into the dream that's being dreamt, and to, in that melting, just to be, as clear in service as possible, just clarity in the service of whatever she's dreaming, because I got nothing. So so as as we tuck in for a long winter's nap and the light, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, shifts and begins to lengthen next week, can be very, we would invite to be very intentional about what wish you bring to the holy days, right? Like, we make lists for, what gifts we want and, which sale we're going to find and all of that stuff that happens in the material world. But, how intentional can we be with this gift, with the request of this gift? Because if we don't ask, it can't be granted. Right? So the power of listening, the power of the word, the clear articulation, right? The surrender, the gratitude. Right? It's the deepening of the trust. Deepening of the trust of what is here. What is at play?